Okay. So good evening, everyone. So this we have all gathered together for the Dev Day of January. So basically, Dev Day is a informal kind of a meetup for developers who come here and share their experiences about working on projects to the community. So here we are with the Dev Day of January. Uh, so yes. So before beginning, uh, okay. So the audience that we have today is they are either freshers or people who are 2 to 3 years of experience. And the main topic that we are going to discuss about is starting your journey as a developer. Okay, so before going to the topic, let me introduce myself and Kirti. So Kirti and me, we are recently graduated folks with about 1.5 years of experience working as a solution consultant in Sahaj. So like when we joined Sahaj, we went through a program called as Gurukul, wherein, we were taught about some of the practices that a fresher should necessarily know, which molds the fresher into a solution consultant or a software engineer. So basic practices have been taught to us there. Then we went through working on internal projects. So internal projects are basically those that are being used by the people in the organization. And then now we are currently working on client projects. So it's been a good time. We are working on projects. So me and Kirti thought that, before joining, if we knew some things that we should have learned or imbibed within ourselves, then we would have been more productive, because the practices that we follow in college and what we do now are quite a bit different, right? So we thought of sharing our experience as to what can be learned pre-handed, and what practices can be imbibed in yourself before starting your journey, so that they will help you in your journey of being a developer. So welcome everyone, and let's start with the dev day.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, starting with we all start working on projects in either a second year or a third year. So currently we are working on a real projects, and we thought that there are a lot more aspects that we think during the college, if we have followed, then we would have been a more productive, or the applications which we have developed, they could have been in a much better shape, right? So some of the things which we would like to discuss here. So yeah, so whenever we started working on a project, we were a group of 2 or 3 members in my team in the college. So the way we used to divide the task as like, so yeah, I like the backend, so I will work on the backend piece. You like the front end, then you work on the front end. And if there is anything other logic like data science or that, so that is the another part. And we never used to set the priority, like what tasks need to be done, or what is the this week's goal. So there was not any visibility, like the one who is working on a backend never had a real idea about what the person who is working on a front end working on. So while working on a real projects, we got to know about the Kanban. So Kanban is nothing but here you can see the image right side. So it is nothing but the way to organize the tasks. So let me give you an example. So here is a to-do list Kanban board, which state that first lane there is a backlog. It means that here we will list down all the tasks need to be done. So consider you are working on a project, and front end, back end, data science tasks need to be done. So in the backlog, we will add all of those tasks, and not only add, we will also prioritize them and organize in a manner such that the person who is working on respective card will pick firstly the top card. The next line shows that in progress card. So it means that currently on a backend, I'm working on a particular piece of code, or in the front end, your friend is working on the another code. In the similar fashion, there are a lot more things. So this gives us the visibility that what all the tasks needs to be done, what all the tasks are in progress, what are in done, And if there are some of the tasks which are blocked, so we can add another lane as a blocked. So you can use, there are a lot more online tools like Trello and Jira. So where you can use these Kanban boards and organize your project related tasks in much better way. Sorry. Yeah. Next thing is that while development, I personally focused on whether the feature whichever I am adding, whether it is executing correctly or not. Means I never thought of that, like the piece of code which I am adding, whether it is understandable to my friend, whether the work which I have done, whether it is giving that much value which is required, right? So in a real projects, the correct execution is not the only parameter which we consider, but along with that, the simplicity. So here the simplicity, I would like to elaborate in a fashion that the code readability, code modularity, right? So if the piece of code which I have added, if that is understandable to my friend, then he or she can easily modify that if further changes need to be done, right? So the key focus what during the college our is just the correct execution, but not just that, we also need to thought about the simplicity as well. Yeah. Going ahead, so let's consider I have added a new feature, that is the login using the email. So I have to test that particular feature. So what I will do, I will open my login web page, and there I will try out multiple scenarios with the incorrect email or like that, right? So but in a real project, so we got to know that just like we add a piece of code for new features, in the similar fashion we can add a piece of code to test those features as well. So this will ensures that if I'm adding any new feature, I can I'm not disturbing any of the existing functionality. To give you an example, like the login with the email, so we can add a test like that. Login should pass if the email is valid, or login should fail if the email is invalid. Yeah, that's simple, right? So these are the practices which will help uh, for delivering the quality product. Going ahead, using of the version control system such as Git. So during the college, whenever we used to work, uh, we used to carry a pen drives and share our projects via that, or the Google Drive. We rarely used any kind of version control system, but that gave that was not a good way, right? Because if let's consider I have added one feature and my friend has done modification in the same feature. So if we both want to merge that particular feature or a function, so we had to sit together and see what are the differences, what piece of code I have added, what piece of code my friend has added, right? But using the version control system, you can easily contribute and collaborate. You can see that this piece of code is added by this team member, and this piece of code is added by this team member. So you can easily visualize that and work. Next thing, test and experiment. So let's take an example. So earlier we talked about the login using the email. So in future, if we want to add a login using the mobile number as well, so that is nothing but another extension to our existing feature. So what we can do using the version control systems like Git, we can create a branch and implement the functionality to support the new feature. We will test it out, try it out all the scenarios, and if everything is working fine, we will merge it with the main project code. So in the similar fashion, we can play around in the same project and apply different things. And the next important thing, Git help us to keep history and track changes. If I want to know, like, how come this piece of code has been added, or how this feature has been evolved, like the login. Earlier it was the email, now it is both email and the mobile number support as well, right? So using the Git history, I get to know that this login feature has been evolved during these phases. So here I would like to take a pause, and if anybody would like to add anything or have any questions. If the folks who are 2 to 3 years of experience have joined, what all differences you have encountered while working on academic projects and the real projects? Hmm. Anyone? Okay, I will take it as a no and go ahead.
Okay. So now coming to the very basic things when we join a project or a company. So like me being, okay, I'll tell my experience. So when I was a fresher and I just joined a team or in an organization, so I was a very shy person. So I didn't used to talk to people around. So when I say talk, I did not ask them any questions or anything because I was afraid, because like they were quite experienced folks. What if my question is wrong? Some like different thoughts used to encounter my mind. So then I was a very shy person because of that. So what I realized over 1.5 years of experience is that you should talk to people. So when we say talking to people, I mean that you should try to know about their experiences, technologies that they have worked on, and even like if you are working on a team, you can talk about what how the team has evolved, what are the practices that you have been following. This essentially connects you to the people you are working with. And since like you are passed out from the college, then it is a need that you start communicating with people around to understand what's going around, to so that you get a brief overview of organization as well as team, and also about their experiences or any courses that they have done. So this is very useful. So the thing is like we should not be shy, and unhesitantly you should ask questions. Yes, and coming to asking a lot of questions. So when I joined organization, I used to have a lot of questions when they used to tell me some things, but I was always, I was always backsides because I was not confident about asking questions. I was like, is that a silly question? So even if I used to dare to ask a question to anyone, I was like, I have a silly question. Will you please answer? Then I had done this many times, and everyone was telling me that no question is a silly question. You can ask question. You can ask question. And gradually, after spending a good time, about a year, then I got confidence of asking questions. Then this gave me a good clarity on things, because the projects that we work on in college are quite a bit smaller as compared to what we are working on when we join any team. So asking a lot of question will give you clarity, because when you are silent, you don't get things essentially. So whatsoever you question you have, you can ask it to anyone. Yes, attentive and stand-ups. So for the freshers who don't know what a stand-up is, so stand-up is essentially a small meeting basically of 10 to 15 minutes meeting that we generally have every day, wherein we discuss about what we did yesterday, what are we going to do today, and is there any problem that we are facing. So on my side, what I used to do is I used to give my update, and I did not pay attention to what people are telling in the team. So this led to one thing, that I have only knowledge of what I am doing. The rest part of the product is something that I'm unaware of. And I thought, then if any issue arises, then I don't know, who the person is responsible, or whom can I contact to if I don't have any understanding or knowledge about who has done the particular feature. So this was something I had faced. So then I started paying keen attention in the stand up, listening to everyone's update of whatever things people are doing in the team. Then even if on the other side also, like if you are developing some feature, okay, and if you get a problem, then so what I used to do before being attentive, I used to ask a person in the team, I have this problem. Then he used to tell me, contact this person, he has the more understanding about this thing. So he knew it because he paid a keen attention towards the team, towards the stand-up. So that was, like time delayed was occurring basically. Why should I approach somebody and then that person will be telling? We should take up things, right? We should know what is going on in our team. So it is very important to be attentive during the stand-ups.
Yeah. So next, learn about the business or the customers. So whichever the role you are playing in where in the company, that is front end developer, back end developer, but at the end your job is to fix the problem of your customers. So see if you can attend the requirement gathering calls with the salesperson or any of the project manager, and having those interaction, what will help as a developer, we will get the clear idea about what actually the problem the customer is facing. Sometimes there might be a scenarios that customers don't have any technical knowledge. Let's suppose we are developing an application for the doctors. So doctor doesn't have any idea about how to phrase his or her problem into the technical way, right? So having those interactions will help us as a team or a developer to transform their problems into the technical problems. Yeah. And not only that, these interactions will help us to prioritize the task, to plan what are the immediate needs of the customer, how the customers are going to benefit, what strategy should we apply. And these communications will help also to gain the trust between the customer and us team. Yeah. Next, and active participation in the meetings. So whenever you join new team, so it is obvious and it's understandable that there is a lot more things to catch up and things to understand before you have any opinion to put in the meetings, right? So try to strike a balance between listening carefully what your team members are talking about, what problem they are discussing. If you find any of the unknown points, note it down and analyze whether it is the right time to ask that particular question. Sometimes the meetings are like half hour or 15 minutes meeting to discuss particular thing. Either you can ask on if it is a that if it is suitable, you can ask the right away, or you can wait and after the meeting you can ask to one of your colleague, what was this term that you guys were talking about, right? And also another thing, if you have any thought, like suppose we are brainstorming on one of the new feature which we have to develop, if you have any thought, feel free to put it in the on the table, so that if the statement you are making, whether it is correct or wrong, if it is correct, you will get the confidence that you are aligned with the what your team members are talking about. And if not, your team members will make further statements on the opinion which you have made, right? So you will understand what the statement you have made and how it was misaligned with the discussion which is currently going on. So in this way it will help you to evolve your thought process. Yeah. Going ahead, there are some of the things like while solving problem or the dealing blockers, we will share our experience or the approach which we take while addressing those. So firstly, how to approach it towards a problem. So here, problem is nothing but the task which you are currently working on. Okay. So whenever you are assigned to a particular task, don't right away start with the implementation. Firstly, have enough context of it, like what is the problem, why it is needed, right? Let's take an example. We all are building a student management application, and we also want to provide week-wise details. Here, consider this graph, like number of students passed and failed for the per semester. So understand the entire context, what all things need to be done. Next thing, identify unknowns, complexities, and the dependencies. Considering this example, how many students have been are passed or failed for particular semester. So here the unknown could be, as we have to visualize this particular data. Unknowns is what database, what UI library should I need to use. The unknown could be like how many number of semesters should I consider, and the complexities here I would say, like whether we want to divide it across the gender as well, or we want to divide it according to the courses as well, like different courses we have, right? So identify these unknowns, complexities, discuss with the team, uh, and clear it down, and then only start working on that. uh, Next I would say, as this problem is quite a big, right? So whenever you are given a particular problem, try to break it down into the smaller subtasks, so that firstly I have to do this task, then this task, right? So you will have a proper direction to finish that particular task. So in this case I would say, firstly we will have to create a backend API to publish this particular data of how many students have been passed or failed, right? Next task would be, I have to search about the what are the different UI libraries which help us to plot this particular bar graph. And the third point I would say, like what all things I need to represent here. I have to represent the count, the semesters, and the pass and fail. So how to transform the raw data which is coming from the backend, and to transform that into the UI supporting the library, what all aggregations I will have to make, right? So breaking into this small piece of task will give you the confidence and also the direction to approach that particular problem. Next I would say, uh, whenever solving any problem, if it involves a particular complexity, try to solve in a high level view on a paper first. It will give you the idea what all things need to be considered, what all things need not to be considered, what all edge cases I will have to consider, right? And then go for converting into the code. And the last but not the important last but most important I would say, time bounding the problem. uh, we all are aiming to finish the problems in a particular period of time, because we all have deadlines, right? So time bound a particular problem, some of the teams may follow the practice, like if you are working on a particular task, there you have to specify time, that is you have to specify the estimate which will be required for this particular task. So this may be wrong, right? Because as now this considering this example, as it has unknowns, complexities, right? So you will eventually during the course of time you will get an idea about giving the correct time, estimate times. You should consider like development time, testing time as well, during providing the estimates. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are developing some things, okay, you're working on some part, so then definitely you will be getting some problems, okay, or the blockers. So blockers can be any. It can be related to development or testing or something, like you have to get APIs from someone, but you have not got it. So we have to deal with these blockers. So how do we do that? So let's go by example. Okay, like for example, I am somewhere stuck with some blocker that my test is getting failed and there is some exception. So so the earlier me, I used to like think and think, go through the code and everything, but the main important thing while resolving a blocker is getting to know the root cause. So if I just deworked it, and then I could easily find out where the problem exactly lies. And when we take an example about you did not get any APIs from the person whom you have to get it actually, or the company, so then you can tell it in your stand up, right? That in the blocker section that I have this blocker, I don't have this. So instead of going into an infinite loop to find the cause that I used to when I was just a fresher, you should just go and ask for help if you are not getting any. Time bound it, pay fully attention on it, and try to solve it. And if not, then ask for help. There is nothing like a bad thing for asking for help if you have tried at a good extent with whole concentration. And the most important thing after dealing with a blocker is you should definitely share your learnings. So sharing your learnings, you can either do it in your meetings, and this will limit this to your team only. But if you want to share it with a wider audience, you can write a blog out of it, you can make a video out of it, because this will help the community, and this is how we grow. So definitely you should share your learnings. And yes, I guess this is the way we can deal with the blockers. Okay. Now, when I earlier said that you should ask a lot of questions. Okay. So now, when we are coming to the, working on a story kind of thing, and then we have to ask questions because we have some. So how do we approach it, right? So the most important thing that I have been experienced and is being taught to me is that you should first go to the why part of the story. Okay, what is a story? Story is nothing but a task. So you have a description of the task, and you have some acceptance criteria. In a short view, I'm telling, you have an acceptance criteria that if this is done, then your story is completed. Okay, so without blindly just reading it and doing as per the acceptance criteria, think on it, think what extra things can be done, and then that is essentially means that go to the why part of it, understand why this feature is needed, then what would happen if this feature has been implemented, and how does this feature add the value, and then you can go to the what and the how part of it, where changes has to be made, how the changes has to be made. This is the later part, because if you don't understand this thing, you won't properly go for the implementation of how part of it. So this is called as 5 W's and H model, wherein you should first get the thorough understanding of what you are working on, and then go ahead, because this will increase your dimensions of thinking, and also helps you delivering testing in proper ways, like taking into consideration the scenarios that can be tested.
Yeah. So going ahead, we would like to share some of the practices which while working furthered our learnings and gave us the opportunities to grow. So first thing, task prioritization. So apart from the work which you are currently doing on, there might be some another task, like you have to reply to some of the emails, or in the meeting, in the stand up, you got to know that there is some production issue that has been critical. So try to identify the criticality of the problem, criticality of the task, and work accordingly. So here in this case, replying emails could be the later task, right? And the fixing the production issue is the higher priority one. So at the very start of the day, prioritize all the tasks which are in your current lane, and go according to the prioritization. So this will help your team and you as well to do the correct right thing at the right time, and also achieve whichever the goal our team has. Next, focusing on the simplicity. So as I have already stated, the simplicity is nothing but the way I write the code, how the modular code is. So try to follow style official documents, style guides, which specify like how the naming should be done, how should we handle the errors, how the logs should be added, right? And also in that important, I would say, add the test as well. So test will ensure that the things which you are adding, or new features which you are adding, they are not existing, they are not hampering any of the existing functionality. And this way we achieve the simplicity, and the simplicity helps our team for ease of understanding of the implementation, ease of debugging, right? Next, reduce efforts on the reviewer side. So we all follow on our team's code review practice, where nothing but if I have implemented something new or some new feature, firstly it will my senior folk will review it, and then only it will be merged to the master, and then only it will go to the production. So while giving a particular piece of code to the reviewer, make sure that you value their time, right? Because they are involved in a lot more complex stuff. So firstly, what I usually follow is, if I am raising any of the merge request, firstly specify that this changes you have made, these design changes you have done, right? And also make sure that the piece of code which you are giving for the review, it is working fine. Test it end to end locally, using all the edge cases scenarios. This should not happen that you are giving the piece of code to review to your reviewer, and on his or her machine, he or she is getting the compile time errors or the runtime errors. So make sure that these small things need to be taken into consideration if you are giving your code to the reviewer. Next, taking responsibilities whenever possible. So for that, I will give an example. Consider in a stand-up, your manager would say, like, we have this dependencies on the client team, and we have to send out an email asking for that. Or there is a this is the end of the week, or we have to make a presentation to the client regarding what all things we have achieved, what all things have been remained, and we will give it in the next week. So all of these small tasks, see if you can do and take responsibilities for that. This will help you to grow as in person, and also it will give a lot more opportunities, like sending email, you will get to interact with the other folks to the client, right? So these small not only technical but non-technical tasks as well will if you do and take the responsibilities, it will eventually increase your team's productivity. uh, Next, asking for specific feedbacks. So earlier I used to ask to the senior folks, do you have any feedback for me? So this question, right, it is not that clear on both the sides, on my side as well, whether in which area I want a feedback, or from the senior folk whom you have asked, in what area of feedback does she want? Does she want on a piece of code or anything, right? So this is the right here I'm showing you some of the questions which you can ask uh, and get better way to get the feedbacks in that particular area. uh, First example, I would say, suppose you have modified some of the request or changed some of the design of particular request. So you can ask that, what do you think of this design? If there are any issues or anything like that, your senior folk will give you that particular suggestion. If you have sent an email to a client, you can ask that, was the email which I have sent, was that clear, or should what should how should I have written it in a better way, right? So in the similar fashion, the set of examples, like, did I prioritize things well, should I be doing more of this or less of this, do you have any concerns about the projects? So asking these small questions in that particular area will help both you as well as the senior folk to give the right set of feedback and to receive the right set of feedback.
Okay. Now coming to the general practices that we follow in teams. So different teams in different organization follow different practices. So this is what mostly the teams here follow. So let's go one by one. So story grooming. So what is story grooming? So basically, when we talk with the client, interact with the client, we get to know, like as Kirti said, we should know our business, right? What is their problem? We should understand that. And that after that only we divide that particular problem into some tasks. The tasks are called as story, and then we give some description and acceptance criteria, test cases for the story. So story grooming is very important because, as I said, that unless you know proper background of why this thing is needed, unless you understand that what change uh, made, the change that has been made is going to add some kind of value, so you won't be able to deliver that efficiently. So here we follow this particular thing, story grooming. Every sprint we interact with our clients, we get to know what their requirements are, and then we prioritize them, what should be taken in this sprint and the upcoming sprints, and then we go ahead with the grooming. And then this is done actually by team basis. So we may be dividing ourselves into pairs, and then we groom, and then the whole team can review it. So I like this story grooming because this gives me a good idea about what the business is and what value the feature is going to add. Coming to the next thing, pairing. So when I joined the client team a few months before, I didn't have complete knowledge as to what is happening in this particular service, and what is this code doing, and what are the different entities that have been involved. So we generally follow pairing at that time, wherein the person who has been paired with me, pairing is like two people work on a same story. So the person gives me idea about what the thing is and what are the changes to be made and what all entities are involved or are revolving around that particular change. So this is one scenario when we are pairing, like if we are new to the team, or else when we perform a TDD. So okay, coming to TDD. So what is TDD? It is test driven development. Okay, I'm very much fascinated with TDD because I have a habit of thinking about many things like future, what can be extension and everything. So this basically keeps the approach narrowed down, and it focuses on one functionality at a time. So a very basic small thing is first a test is being written. Then obviously the test is going to fail because we don't have anything, a code handling that test particularly. So then we fix the test. So as and when we get to know more scenarios, we add test one by one, and this ensures that we have a narrowed down approach and the application is well tested. Also, when a new feature is added, and if suppose because of that thing, some things are breaking, so test do start breaking, and then we can get to know it. So when we do pairing, we also perform TDD. So I would write the test, and the partner who has been paired with me, he resolves it, like creating some classes with it and implementing it, basically making it green. Then coming to code reviews. So code reviews, on my perspective, is very important thing because, so see, me being a fresher, I am writing the best possible code that I can up to my knowledge. But people around you are very experienced, they have seen code evolving and they have a good knowledge, right? So whenever if I write a particular piece of code, then I make sure that it is reviewed before it is merged to the master branch, because the code should be of the utmost quality. So here, when I commit something to my feature branch, then one of the team members reviews the code. He or she tells me like what modifications can be done, is the naming of the variables in properly so that others can understand. It's there are some scenarios that I have not handled, so this is very useful, and there are many such scenarios that code reviews can help with. Then coming to retrospective. So after a sprint has ended, we have done the showcase to the client, the time comes of the retrospective, wherein we analyze that what has been done good in our team, what can be improved, and then the action items. Okay, so TDD stands for test driven development. You first write the tests. Test will be firstly going wrong because you don't have a error, you don't have a code handling the test basically. Then you have to make the test green, means you add the code for it. I hope I have answered your question. Yes, coming to retrospectives again. So I was saying that retrospectives mainly focuses on what you have done good, what can be improved, and action items on it. So recently, when we had a sprint end, we had some of the things that could have been improved, that we thought that team should have implemented that. Then some of us take up those things. We take the responsibility of implementing those things. Okay, and that is called as the action item. So on what? So we take action items on things that can be improved. So these practices are according to the practices that I have seen, these are very effective for productive output.
So yeah, so here I would like to tell some of the must-haves before you folks starting your career in the as a developer. So first and utmost important is learning Git. So as I already stated, Git is one of the version control system, and it offers a lot more benefits and ease of contributing and the collaboration and tracking your previous history. So please learn Git. Uh, in any other way, whenever you come to the whenever you start a career, you will ultimately will have to learn this Git. Next, I would say use command line. So a simple command, that is single line command, can save a lot more time while working on the command line is a very powerful tool. Just the single line command can perform tremendous and more complex tasks. So initially it would be very difficult for you folks, but try to use command line as much as possible. Start with the simple commands, and then you can go for like complex command like searching, like that. Use of development IDs. So a lot of development IDs such as IntelliJ IDEA, Visual Studio Code, supports tremendous plugins and the frameworks which boost our productivity. They give suggestions what could be the better name for a particular variable, or if you have written a particular piece of code and if it has been duplicated, it will identify that and will suggest if you can replace that. If you have written a loop, it will suggest. So using these development IDs will help you to write a code in much better way, and also it supports a lot of shortcuts which will improve your productivity. Yeah. Become proficient in at least one programming language. So during my course of learning, for the first year and the second year, I studied C, and all the programming concepts, all the right from basic syntaxes to advanced data structures, I implemented it in the C. So and as I know all the concepts related to the programming and I have implemented it in the C, it was very easy for me to switch to any other languages like Java. So become proficient in one language. It doesn't matter which language you are learning, but becoming proficient in one language will help you to start your career journey in any of the new programming language which your company or a client requires, right? So understand a lot more aspects like how to deal with uh, how to do database queries, how to do error handling, like this in one programming language, and similarly you can relate it into the another programming language. Don't try to learn multiple language at the same time. Learn one first and then later. Yeah. uh, Join communities and the coding forums. So the communities help us to meet with the peoples which are like-minded, which have same interests. On a LinkedIn meetup, you will find those folks. You can interact with them. If you have any query, they will feel free to talk with you. So do attend meetings via meetup. So there you will get a lot more resources. And the coding platforms like HackerRank, LeetCode, all of this will help uh, you folks to evolve your logical thinking, how to consider a lot more edge cases, how can I achieve this particular thing in less best complexity, right? Lower time complexity. So join these forums, practice there, and yeah.
Okay, to summarize the discussion that we had in this particular session, so let's summarize this. So first and the most important thing that I have learned is that don't rush into things. So I used to compare myself with my teammates that he is doing good, she is doing good, I am not delivering like as he is doing. I mean, and they had more experience. So I was like, am I not doing properly? I wanted things to happen very quickly. So that doesn't happen. So you need to, so all the things that we had told, attentive, being attentive in stand-ups, being attentive in meetings, talking, asking questions, these all dots by dots, they start connecting and then you get to know things. When we start working on projects in organization in a particular company, the code bases are huge. So it was sometimes overwhelming for me that I used to be like, I'm not understanding the entire code base. So it's okay, but uh, you getting to know slowly things is also right thing, right? So you need to ask a lot of questions for that, and slowly a small drops will make the ocean. So that is the thing, you don't need to rush into things. And so like for example, there might be some scenarios where people don't follow some practices, right? Like clean coding, TDD. It's okay, but when we say take up initiatives, take up responsibility, why not you suggest your team, you go, you read about it, why is TDD good, why we should follow clean coding practices, and in the meeting you can straight away put it like, let's try following these practices, let's see, is there any difference in the output that we are delivering and what we used to deliver. So this is all about taking initiatives and going ahead in our journey. Yes. So questions, or anyone wants to add anything, like people who are experienced can add their points if they have any.
I think you both have summarized pretty well, Saili and Kirti. Any question, folks? Anybody on the group has any questions that you would want to ask? Anything that you probably did not understand, or you want the speakers to elaborate more? This is the time to ask. We'll probably wait for a few minutes, and then if there are no questions, then we'll probably end the session because it's almost 7:30.
How practical are these, when applied in a real services company where there's a madness to, deliver, without, engineering thinking?
So the question, just to address that question, right? It's mostly, I would say, the pragmatic call people have to take. Now there are multiple scenarios, right? When you're working for, let's say, a startup, and if they have a tight deadline before which the product has to go live, maybe you need to ensure that you're probably not, no, you probably have to drop or no, take certain shortcuts because you need to be alive to be able to do TDD. If your product is not alive, what's the point of TDD? At the same time, you may get into a setup which is where we are working with a corporate where having this safety net does more benefit than damage. So we may want to focus more on quality before we can get to new features. So there is no right or wrong answer again. Again, I don't know who asked that question. So if you may tell your name.
My name is Nagendra.
Hi, Nagendra. So it depends, Nagendra, on the context, on the situation, time at hand, and multiple other such factors, right? So there is no, I would say, straightforward answer or a silver bullet answer to these questions.
But don't you feel that, this, the safety net and all will make things faster rather than, just running and failing at a production?
It does. Again, as I said, right, if you're really pressed with time and if you want to get your features out, let's say if you have to deliver something in 3 months. And when I say deliver something, you need to have your first version of MVP out. Please also understand if TDD is a practice that takes a lot of time before one can master it. And it has its own, I would say, pitfalls and drawbacks where sometimes it takes a lot more time to set this up. And if you are running against time, then I'm not saying don't write tests. Please don't mistake me saying that I'm suggesting not to write tests. All I'm saying is maybe you'll have to choose areas where you have to do TDD and choose other areas where you probably have to cover it using maybe functional tests. So TDD is just part of it, right? Quality as such is just, TDD is the small part of the bigger quality. Maybe there are other approaches that needs to be taken. And then again, these are contextual things that needs to be taken in account of that particular situation that we are talking about. And hence there are no silver bullet answer.
What I get it is, even startups can follow TTD if all of them are mature developers.
Yes.
That would be faster.
Yes, if people, everybody, like if everybody is at the same level, and if everybody is good with TTD, they understand the fundamentals of it, they understand the pitfalls of it, they understand what tools, techniques to be used, then yes, teams can. And in fact, I have been part of teams where everybody was like that and we did it. And I've also been part of teams where people were mixed. I've also been part of teams where people were not even aware of TTD. And at different times, different calls have to be taken based on the situation we are in.
Sure. Yeah, because I get this confused because, without test cases, you can run faster. It's like, I can actually walk faster than going in a train because, going to train, there is a traffic jam.
Correct.
So that's, it looked like a chaotic way of doing it, which you will never reach a destination.
Correct, Nagendra. So see, again, there, just saying that TDD is not needed doesn't mean you don't do testing. There is always a way. If 5 people put their minds together, there is always a way out. And the team has to make that call. Every choice has a consequence. In software, usually it's going to be time versus money versus scope. And the team has to make the choice between the 3.
Okay. But why are we not able to say that, something, this is the shortest path?
Well, it need not be shortest, right? Sometimes you not have to take a short path.
You are saying sometimes we are not happy with the shortest path. Huh?
Yes, sometimes you don't have to, right? Because it probably is not. Again, depends on the context, right? If it's something, if you work with a startup, so we again in Sahaj we have worked with startups, who got some investments from investors, and if their product does not see the end of the light or end of the tunnel, that dream is over. In fact, we have worked with organization where we worked. Unfortunately, even though the product went live, it wasn't well accepted, and hence the startup got shut down. We did had those quality parameters in there and all of those things in place. In other places, we have to take certain shortcuts because we need to get our product out. Now, in those cases, later on, once the product went live, we did go back and refactor. So again, Nagendra, I don't know if there is, I cannot tell you, at least personally, having been almost close to 2 decades in the industry now, I don't think so I can give you a silver bullet answer to these questions. It is always, in my mind, in my personal experience, it is a choice that one makes based on the situation one is in and what are the consequences of it. If the product is going to live, then you need to improve the quality because otherwise it will bite you back. So you may take shortcuts, do it, but then you have to fix it. Tech debt, for example, right? And these folks have not spoken about it, but tech debt is another pattern or another way of how you deal with it. You may take 2 weeks, 3 weeks after you have gone live with your product to fix those shortcuts, do it properly, refactor it, and then move forward. So again, it depends on the situation, and hence there is no silver bullet answer. And I'm sorry I'm repeating that because people fail to understand. A lot of people in the industry fail to. It's not about being dogmatic. It's about understanding. It's about understanding the need and then doing it. Just like how 5 fingers are not the same size, not all projects are the same. But at the same time, each finger has its utility. Once you miss one finger, then you will realize the.
Are you saying TDD is meant for quality or is it a development style?
It is a development style, plus it also gives you quality. Okay. One aspect of the quality. Quality has many.
TDD is meant for developers to be more productive.
It can help developers to be more productive because it gives them faster feedback, and when you get faster feedback, you're bound to get faster.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Any other question? What else important technical skills companies expect besides Fundamentals, Jay. Maybe Kirti and Saili can answer this question.
Okay. So, sorry, what was the question? Let me...
In the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat. Nikhil asked the question, and then Jay also asked another question.
Okay, I'll answer Nikhil's question first. So, Nikhil, so when I gave interview, so when you are a fresher, okay, you are being only tested for your fundamentals. So the thing is like you are good with your basics, then you can definitely answer whatever questions are being asked. So yes, mostly the fundamentals part, you should be good at data structures, with the core concept of data structures and any programming language that you are working on, the projects that you have done, basically. And most important, what I felt was that you should never tell a lie, you know, because people are so experienced that they'll catch you at an instance, and if that happens, then you won't have any answer because that will be extended. So yes, I think these things are important.
adding to what Saili has said, and also the things which we have mentioned, right? So suppose in your lane, the tasks are like you have to fix a production bug. That is the critical. And you are miss the priority. If you are doing the priority task at earlier, and you are if you are blocked at somewhere, you are calling it out, right? So you are not keeping the things to yourself and sharing it with the team. So these are also aspects need to be considered, that I feel. Am I audible, or
Yes,
was I
yes,
clear?
you are audible. Yes.
Yes, you are clear, Kirti. We heard you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, and adding to this for Jaya's question, I want to say that okay. So basically, performance calculation, it's, I don't think, because you know, we do it for ourselves. We also want to learn. So the more we take initiatives, the more we involve, the more we discuss. That is it. Unless you are not doing anything, I don't think there is any problem. Everything is good.
Good. So, folks, probably will take another 3 minutes and we'll wind up because it's almost 1+ hour now. So, we'll probably last few questions and then we will end the session in another 3 minutes. So, if anybody else has any other question, comments, suggestions, and if anybody else who is 1 year, 2 year experience, if they wish to share any inputs that were probably not covered as part of the talk that Saili and Kirti gave, please feel free to share, as Dev Day is all about sharing your experiences with the community out there. So if you feel like sharing anything, please go ahead and share it.
Okay, Rohit, hi. First of all, I must say it was a great presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, Deborah, yes.
Okay. So, I mean, coming back to the question that I'd initially asked in my chat, it was this constant conflict between either Kotlin or Java. You see, because Kotlin claims to be a faster typed language that helps the creator to, directly translate his thoughts into code, rather than Java, which contains a lot of boilerplate, right? So, as someone who's got, I'd say, mediocre experience in Java, would I be required to learn Kotlin to stay relevant to the industry, or can I continue on with Java? That's my question.
Is it just me who is not able to hear, or is it everybody else?
We were able to hear. I think you have bad internet.
Then can you guys answer, because I didn't hear the question. It went.
Sure. I can answer the question. All right. So speaking about languages and what is helpful and what is not, right? So let's say Python is considered one of the easiest languages to learn, right? And it's very close to what you think, and an and is just writing A and D versus writing ampersand, and symbol and symbol and stuff. So things like that can help you in the beginning, but you need to know what are the pitfalls of each and every language and what are the strengths of each and every language. When you say Python, you have a lot of GC, which is not optimized. Java has been running for more than 2 decades. There is like loads and loads of GC optimization. There is extremely good GC and all that stuff. And when I say GC, I mean garbage collection. And you also have things like Rust and C++, which don't even have garbage collection by default. And that can help you speed up your programs even more, and the memory footprint can be very less. So it depends on where you are in your learning, whether how much experience you have, how comfortable you are with the language. For the first few years, I would say just pick a language, learn it properly. Kotlin versus Java, I would still say, depending on what you're writing your code for, what exactly is the application you're writing it for, what advantages do you get in Kotlin versus Java. Java is not going to go away anytime soon. There is enough amount of projects, and I would say it is one of the most widely used languages which everyone trusts as of now, and it is one of the languages which has the most amount of libraries and community and everything else. So it's not going to go away anytime soon. And at the same time, Kotlin is new, it is going to evolve, and it is going to be decently more powerful than Java. So pick one, stick to it, learn where it is good, where it is bad, and why you're using it.
Okay, I've got a small follow-up question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You said that the choice of your language depends on what kind of project that you're embarking on, right?
Mm-hmm.
What strength does Kotlin have over Java? Is it faster, or is the only plus point that it is easily typed?
I do not really know, actually. To be honest, I haven't read that much on Kotlin. I know Java, I have read a lot on Rust, I know C, C++, but yeah, Kotlin is not something that I've read much. And Python I know and I hate because it has very bad, everyone likes Python because it's easy to write, but it has a lot of pitfalls. GC is bad. They have this thing called Grover interpreter lock, which doesn't allow your threads to actually work like threads. So you have a thread, but it can't parallelly process anything. So that's actually something that I wanted to talk about. So two more things that you need to do as you guys are learning, right? I am myself very new. I just have 2 years of experience. But the way that I was able to get better at my craft was reading, right? Reading why I'm doing certain things. When people are just asking, okay, why TDD? Read about it. Try and look at it from every different perspective that people have used it for. There are things like languages. Why are people using certain languages over other languages? Why are people rewriting Mozilla or anything else is rewriting in Rust instead of what was being used as C++ before? What are the drawbacks of using languages, right? And what are the new tools that are being built? So if you keep reading, I spend more than an hour every day just going through random blog posts. Blog posts are small, they are precise, they're 10-minute reads or 15-minute reads. Read them. You can do more later on when you have more time. You can read more and learn more later on when you have more time. But reading and knowing what exactly is happening in the community as a whole helps you learn more, and it helps you understand things in different perspectives and learn new things about different approaches to solve the same problem, why people are rewriting some things, what exactly is happening. And it exposes you to far more technologies than what you're aware of.
And just to add on to that, what Charan said, Devaner, I think one other aspect that, especially when you're working for businesses, right, or most of the time, funding is going to come from a business. If the organization that you're working, which is probably not an IT company, maybe they are into hospitality, maybe they are into auto manufacturing, education, banking, whatever. They also look at, can they find people in the market with the same skill set? Certain times, a lot of these new languages, you will struggle a lot to find skill sets of with people with skill sets of these languages to be able to carry forward the product. We can't keep rewriting the same product again and again, right? It takes time, it takes a lot of money. So at that point of time, the businesses also look at, can I get the resources available in the market, and people who can carry forward and maintain the product. And some of the times that plays a huge decision-making part of choosing a language, even though a certain other language is probably more powerful or more can get your job easily and has a lot more support. But if I can't find people on that language to support, then I would rather go with something that is, again, this is where the business plays and overrules the suggestions from the IT team. But it does happen. And it's not that it happens every time, but there are a lot of times when this would happen. And again, it takes context of why, than just simply saying, hey, this language is better than another. Again, as I said, sometimes it happens, sometimes it may not happen. It all depends on what is the nature of work, what is the nature of product, what is the kind of problem we are trying to solve, and so on and so forth. Of late, you will see a lot of adoption of Python because of data science, and tons of people are learning Python, and it's very easy to find people on Python. You will find a lot of people who know Python. In the other cases, you will probably struggle to, there'll be a huge struggle to find people on Kotlin. It's not that there are nobody in Kotlin, there are, but there will not be enough number of people compared to, let's say, Python or Java. Such things also play a large part in certain times in decision making. Does that answer your question, Debnair?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hey, Debnair, I want to add.
All right, so we are way over time now. But there's one final question, and probably with that we'll probably. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing to your answer, Rohit. Just that you're comparing Java and Kotlin. My suggestion will be, don't do that, man. Because every language has its own specifications and features. You will learn both of these language, go in the company, get assigned to the project, and they'll ask you to code in Golang, or they'll ask you to code in C, or they'll ask you to code in CPP. So it really doesn't matter what you have learned so far. I think what you can do is just learn how to learn fast. If you get how to grasp things properly and in a particular speed, you'll be there. You don't need to compare languages and choose one of the options and go and learn that.
Correct. Very aptly put, that sometimes you learn something, you do something, you learn something. When you get onto a project, you're doing something else altogether. That is a very common thing to happen.
Yeah, this is the feature of industry. It's very volatile. It's changing very fast. So just learn how to learn fast.
That's the actual skill, to learn how to learn fast.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the only industry where you have to keep learning.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't survive. Okay,
yeah.
I think with that,
Android keeps coming out with, keeps outdating these packages and libraries. Like, what's the trend right now would be deprecated in, say, 2 months from now.
Yes, it would
and
happen.
you'll find lacking if you haven't kept yourself up to date. It's kind of cutthroat, actually, the industry.
It is extremely cutthroat. I think with that, we'll probably call it a day. And thank you all for spending your Saturday evening, about one plus hour now, for listening to us and being participative. And in case any of you wish to give a talk on this forum, please do reach out to our organizers or simply contact us on our social network forum, and we should be able to work with you and give you this forum to share whatever you want to share on technology. It has to be around technology. It can be anything on technology, as long as you're willing to share your experiences, whether it's about specific technology, whether it is about specific problem, whether it's about how you went about using a technology adoption into a certain place, or anything of that sort. Please do get in touch with us. It's not just Sahaj folks who have to speak. In fact, we have had speakers in the past who have been from outside Sahaj. It is just our effort to kind of give another avenue for people to share and give it back to the community. We use a lot of open source software, so we want to also give back to the community in some shape or form, in whichever small contribution we can do. So if any of you are interested and wish to share, please do reach out to any of us via our social networking handle or or I think Anirudh is there on the call. He's one of the organizers. He can, you can get in touch with him, or simply get in touch with us on our social networking platforms, and we should be able to kind of work with you and give you the slot to speak. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. Saili, Kirti, anything else?
No, Rohit. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Have a good evening and have a good weekend ahead.